Welcome to Great Gardening. Today we are going to discuss some of the things you need to consider before putting up a privacy wall, as it all seems fine and dandy until the bushes grow and the problems between neighbors arise. Let's get into it. So the first thing is that privacy walls do not insulate from sounds. As you can hear sitting in my petite garden, there are the rackets of a nearby airport from one direction and the chaos of some new roofing that is coming in on a house in the other direction. So as much as I could try to create a tranquil and almost surreal environment in the middle of the city, bushes do not do a lot to protect you from the sounds of your neighbors. Therefore, if you have rowdy neighbors, neighbors that like to party, neighbors that do a lot of construction, have little kids, yapping dogs, all of the above, privacy wall will do very, very little to help you. In fact, you might find yourself being mortified by the investment you put into the privacy wall that really did not solve your problems, as the visual of other people or people having access to view you is one thing, but having to listen to their nonsense all day long is a completely separate fact. So if you're easily disturbed by others in a sonic way, the privacy wall will do very little to help you. The next thing is that everything in nature, has a starting and an ending point, meaning that no privacy wall is going to be eternal, and your choice of vegetation will directly impact just how fleeting your moments of privacy will be. As you can see behind me, I've planted a bunch of bushes in my garden, and they haven't grown to their full size yet. They will fill out, and there will be effectively a very lush wall of green around my garden year-round, because these are evergreen plants. However, in a few strategic places that were particularly ugly and where my neighbors were particularly messy, I just couldn't bear the sight of them and needed a seasonal, immediate solution. And so I chose ornamental grass. Now initially, this was amazing because you plant it, a few months go by, and next thing you know, all of your aesthetic gardening problems are just evaporating. What's happening on the other side of that fence basically doesn't impact you anymore. They can be slobs, they can be messy, leave piles of garbage, whatever kind of foolishness is transpiring beyond that fence. No longer your worry, no longer your business. But what I didn't know is that the maintenance of that grass requires for it to be cut down on a yearly basis. And so every spring, we come to the painful moment that not only do we have to chop down the grass and compost it, which is a hell of a lot of work, but we have to look at their garbage on the other side of the fence all over again. And we're furthermore tortured by the fact that we let these bushes grow for several years. Now they're big, and had we invested in the first place and played the long game by having bushes to block those strategic areas of the garden as well, I wouldn't be in this position right now. So I think, knowing what I know from today's perspective, it makes a lot of sense to play the long game with the privacy wall. You suffer those first few seasons while your bushes are growing. Some of them will die, some of them will need to be replaced, but in the long run, it will very much be worth it, because the bushes that I've elected to use are effectively small trees. These plants, if allowed and if cared for properly, will outgrow me. And now, the final thing that I want to say before you put your privacy wall in, you might be full of emotion. You probably have a reason for wanting to do this. As everyone who views this channel knows, I very much did. Some issues between neighbors. We don't need to elaborate. You don't want to overdo it, okay? There is a tendency to put too much in too fast, not leaving any consideration for what will happen to the plants as they grow. And it is so counterintuitive, because when you first plant the trees or the bushes and you see these gaping widths between them, it's just disappointment. Geez, what did I waste my money on here? It gives me nothing. Like, spent thousands and I still see the neighbors as clear as day through these bushes. But the fact of the matter is that with time, the bushes fill in and turn into a lush, beautiful, serene wall. Now, if you plant them too closely, the first couple of seasons, bushes, you'll be able to imagine how the wall is going to be better because they'll be close to one another. You'll have, theoretically, a little bit more initial privacy, but then many of the bushes will die out because there's no room for them to prosper. And so for that reason, you've got to do things the right way. There are no shortcuts. And that is what I believe you need to consider before planting your privacy wall. So subscribe to Great Gardening. I'll keep you up to date.